of several government and scientific committees of the Indian Council of Medical Research, the CDSCO, the Central Insecticides Board, the Bureau of Indian Standards, and more. She has also been a part of several other stakeholder committee meetings to promote animal-friendly policies. She serves as the Honorary Director of India's first Center for Animal Law at Nalsar University of Law, Hyderabad. She has obtained the Master of Science in Biotechnology from Osmania University, Hyderabad, and she's also completed a part-time Master's of Law course at National Law University, Delhi. We welcome you, ma'am. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you so much for letting me be part of this wonderful discussion. Scary, but wonderful discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll introduce our next panelist. She's Dr. Sohini Mahapatra, born and raised in Cuttack, Orissa. She's a faculty at National Law University, Orissa, NLUO, Cuttack, and she joined the university in 2016. An alumnus of the same university, Dr. Mahapatra has completed her master's in law from NLUO in 2014, where she was awarded the gold medal for securing the first rank in LLM. She's completed her PhD in 2018 with a specialization in animal welfare laws, making her perhaps the first person in the country with a PhD in the field of animal law. She's completed her BLB from Amity Law University and Amity Law School, University, Noida in 2012, where she was awarded the Merit Scholarship by the Amity University for academic performance. Her area of expertise are animal welfare law, media law, and labor law. She's also advisor to NLUO's Animal Welfare Society, Friends Beyond Species. Her book, Non-Human Animals and the Law, an analysis of animal welfare and animal rights within the Indian legal discourse, was published by Thomson Reuters in January 2020. She's also edited a book titled Animal and Environmental Jurisprudence, a Wildlife Perspective, published last month by Satyam Law International. She's contributed to academic research in the field of animal law through her scholarly articles on issues of animal welfare in journals, books, blogs, and other platforms. Thank you so much for joining us today on this discussion. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, entirely my pleasure. Thank you for having me on board.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So I'll hand over the mic to Saptarshi. Sir, he has been working with animals for all close to 11 years now. He has his own shelter in Gurgaon, and his team is feeding more than 250 animals on a daily basis, street animals. So the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible. Better than Shrinkhala. Okay.
Much better.
I am absolutely in august company today because I've heard about Alok Parnay a lot from Gauri. I have been a volunteer with PFA for 1.5 years. I worked pro bono in managing one of their largest shelter in NCR. I took off a time from my career to do that for Mrs. Gandhi. So during that time, yeah. And I've just got to know Dr. Mahapatra, and I never knew that there exists somebody in this country who has so much of authority over this subject called animal welfare. You know what I mean? This is, I mean, by education we haven't done anything there, but it's by passion that we have been able to reach whatever we have done a little bit. So, I mean, I really welcome you guys, both of you, to this entire thing, because this is a series of webinars we are doing to educate, empathize people, young lawyers, our alumni, people who think about animals, people who want to do a difference to the lives of animals in this country. Most of our webinars are not really very well attended, but we plan to have series. We plan to have every week once to talk about topics which are closer to heart, topics which can be controversial. We want to pick up a topic on animal sacrifice the next. We want to talk about animal trafficking. We want to talk about Jallikattu. and its judgment and the ramification. I know a lot of controversy is there. I'm sure Alok Parna knows how to very nicely tackle that thing. So, so basically, this is something which I wanted to do. It's very close to my heart. So, I'm going to open the questions today, and the way we're going to do it, basically, I'm going to throw open a question. I'm going to ask both of you your thoughts about it, and then at the end, we will see whether we have questions coming from the from the people who are attending this. We have a way to retrieve those questions, and if it is directed to a particular person, I'll ask that person to answer that. Okay. So here goes the first one. Section 28 of Prevention of Cruelty of Animals Act, an extremely frugal act, toothless. However, the act says that killing of an animal is not an offense, and if it is required by religion or any community. Now, in this regard, we have a Himachal Pradesh High Court judgment in 2014, which was annulled by a Supreme Court judgment in 2018, H.L. Dattu, which clearly said that they don't want to get into this. Now, I'm going to ask this to Dr. Mahapatra first, that what is your take on it? You know, how do we go forward? I mean, are we trapped here that we don't know how to go forward with this? Can we ever see a day where we are able to ban all such animal sacrifices?
Thank you, Mr. Roy, for the question. So when we talk about Section 28 of the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960, it is often misinterpreted, I would say, because the provision says that it is not an offense to kill any animal in a manner required by the religion, by any religion or community. So more often than not, what happens is we miss out on this term manner. What the, say, probable interpretation of this provision is that it gives, it is not an offense to kill any animal in the method that is prescribed by a religion, which means, say, broadly, I categorize, animals, killing of animals under religion into two. One is ritual slaughter, one is animal sacrifice as an oblation. So what Section 28 does is it recognizes ritual slaughter. So for those who are attending, and it might be confusing at the outset that what is the difference between ritual slaughter or animal sacrifice. Ritual slaughter is what, as per certain religious communities, the method of executing a slaughter is. For example, halal in Islam, or kosher for Jews, where their religious tenets prescribe a method that you have to slit the throat directly in one go. So Section 28 recognizes this method of killing. Does it recognize sacrifice as an oblation? No, I don't think so. And the courts have gone on record through various judgments where they have expressly told that Section 28 does not recognize animal sacrifice. I would also like to bring out here the trend of the judiciary. So when we are talking about killing of animals in the name of religion, and whether Section 28 actually allows or permits this killing, the trend of how the courts have perceived this is also very important. So if we go back to, say, the decisions of courts in 1960s, early 60s, even when animal sacrifice was not a question before the court, they have delved into this. For example, in one particular case where the question was about an election symbol which related to an animal, and it stemmed from a particular ritual or practice in that particular constituency. The court, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court with stalwarts like Justice Gajendra Gadkar, Justice Hidayatullah, they have placed on record expressly that animal sacrifice is an essential integral part of a religion, and you have to allow people to practice it. But from there, we have definitely come a long way to now where there are high courts which have expressly said that you cannot allow animal sacrifice. So if we go to the Gauri Moulekhi case versus State of Uttarakhand in 2011, where the court has said that Section 28 does not endorse animal sacrifice. Killing of animals or Section 28 has to be read together with Section 11 of the Act, which permits killing of animals for food only. So they draw a distinction here that if you are killing animals in the name of religion also, then it has to be directed towards a particular objective, which is to provide for food. Or if we take the Himachal Pradesh judgment also that you brought up, Ramesh Sharma versus State of Himachal Pradesh, where the court doesn't even go to this aspect of serving for human consumption. Irrespective of that, animal sacrifice should be banned because it stems from superstitious belief. So this entire notion that Section 28 of the Act gives like a blanket approval for killing of animals in the garb of religion is actually misplaced and misconstrued. It only talks about the method or manner of killing, which is there in a lot of other countries. It's not just in India. A lot of other countries recognize different methods of slaughter. They recognize both, say, prior stunning of an animal before slaughtering, as well as ritualistic slaughtering. There are countries like Switzerland which do not permit ritual slaughtering at all. So again, you have to get into that aspect where they argue that ritual slaughtering is probably less painful than people who have go for prior stunning. They say that no, prior stunning is less painful. That is only for the animal to say, probably. We can only presume and have our own conclusions. But Section 28 definitely does not recognize animal sacrifice per se or killing of animal under the name of religion in whatsoever way you want to. I think I would, Ms. Sengupta can highlight or add.
Yeah. You want to add?
Yeah, in addition to that, the Food Safety and Standards Authority, and I'm sorry if you might hear some squeaking noise, that is my dog playing.
Go ahead.
But the Food Safety and Standard Authority regulations also say that if you have to slaughter an animal, it has to be in a registered licensed slaughterhouse. So your Section 28, Section 11 of the PCA Act, plus the FSSAI rules need to be read together. And if you need to slaughter an animal for whatever reasons, it has to be in a licensed slaughterhouse. It cannot be done. And different states, again, have different acts for religious sacrifices, prohibiting religious sacrifices, and those also need to be brought in. So in public place, in religious places, temples, mosques, roads, it is honestly, legally speaking, it is not allowed. It is prohibited. So yeah, if you say 28, then you say FSSAI rules, then FSSAI Act, then actually it is not, it is only the manner, like ma'am was saying, and you have to do it. If you have to slaughter, it is only for food, and it has to be in a licensed slaughterhouse.
If I may add to it, so even the slaughterhouse rules for the Act, they specify that it has to be in within municipal areas. They have to be licensed slaughterhouses. They have to be done by professionals who are experienced in slaughtering. On the contrary, what happens with animal sacrifice in temples, etc., it is not necessarily professionals who do it. And it is the rules specify that even when you're slaughtering an animal for food in a slaughterhouse, it cannot be done in the presence of other animals or in public view. But that is not the case for sacrificing animals in temples, mosques, or any other place of religious worship, or even on the road. It cannot be done in public view. So over a period of time, I think this the point of manner of killing the animal under Section 28 has, somewhere been lost. And I think it is, that needs to be the focus, and you need to emphasize more on that.
Great. So I'm going to add two things to it. One, a slaughterhouse rules also says that the animal in front who is being slaughtered, the animal just back of that should not understand the animal at the front is being slaughtered. Right? Okay, that's very clear. No animal should be in fear at all on the assembly line when they are being slaughtered. So, but then if you go to a slaughterhouse and understand the situation in the slaughterhouse, I mean, horrible. Okay. Secondly, 2016-17, camels were being butchered inside Jama Masjid. I'm sorry, it's slightly controversial, but I'm going to take it up because we had moved High Court, but none of the judges were ready to take it up. Right? So, so there is a thing within the system that who doesn't want to take such cases, which is slightly probably controversial in nature and at the height of a religious festival. So that happens probably, that keeps happening in India. So, okay, so I'm going to go to the second thing now. So there are arguments all over by activists that none of the religion, whichever religion you take Islam, you take Hinduism, you take Jews, you take any religion has never propagated any kind of violence, blood, anything. Now, if I really look at it now, animal sacrifices, if I am not wrong, happened right from the Vedas and Upanishads time, right? And Pandits used to say that people who are sacrificing actually will become more prosperous. Their prosperity will increase, their wealth will increase. This is how probably it started, animal sacrifice, and people started sacrificing because they thought that it will bring in the riches that they're looking at, right? I still remember in in 1985, a Hindi film was made. I can take the name. It's called a film called Gulami, J.P. Datta's movie, where police superintendent comes to a district the first time, and he's being welcomed by they're giving him a sword to cut off the buffalo's head in one whack. You know, this is 1985. A movie was made. I've seen the movie, right? So my point is, how do we draw a line between this so-called extremely age-old customs and religious practices and reality? I mean, and reality, which is all in front of us. We really can't do this to animals. How long we will keep doing this, right? So I'm going to take this first with Alok Parna.
All right. There's no really easy answer, Mr. Roy, but and I'll call you Darshi actually, because it just feels weird calling you Mr. Roy. But
yeah,
the problem is that religion, this might hurt a lot of sentiments, but I'm saying it for all religion is man-made. And whether it's the Vedas, Upanishads, it's seen from a single person's or a group of people's point of view and not from the other. It's not equilateral. And over time, narrative has changed to suit our convenience. So whether it is any religion, if something, and I have been a witness to this, for example, in the Gadimai religious event, so-called the largest sacrifice in any specific place, which is just 8 kilometers away from Indo-Nepal border.
Yeah.
This started when a man who was in jail for robbery or theft, he wanted to get out of jail. So he said that he dreamt of Kali Ma, the sisters of Kali Ma, or the Nepali versions of Kali Ma, forms of Kali Ma, coming and saying that if you sacrifice 5 human beings, I will let you out of jail. So all these beliefs and myths have been brought about by none other than human beings, and that is where we also need to stop it. So I won't go back to the Vedas and Upanishads because I honestly am not the best person to speak about it, but from a point of view of somebody who has seen, say, Gadimai for the last 10, 12 years and worked directly and witnessed the horror that goes on there. So this person, Chaudhary, then perhaps they used to do some human sacrifice then too, but over the period of time, it became 5 animals. And now, in fact, it has gone on to 7 animals, 9 animals, because it has become a business. The narrative has changed. Now sacrifice, instead of it becoming a sacrifice of the demons, of your own demons, because why will a thief or a robber be in jail? I mean, why won't that person be in jail? So that narrative has changed, become a business, become to his convenience. And what needs to be done, what needs to be recognized is that it is not only a sacrifice, animal sacrifice event or an animal event. It is linked to all the issues of social regression. Whether it is, for example, the most number of animals who get slaughtered, who are highly prized, are because people want a boy child. People do not want girls, so they want boys. And when they do have boys, they come and sacrifice the biggest animal, which is a buffalo. And buffaloes, but unfortunately, buffaloes have nothing to do. Nothing. I mean, of course, you can take the part of that they play the demon or the Mahishasur and they represent the evil. But unfortunately, buffaloes are also the sort of byproduct of the dairy industry. So exactly. How does the dairy industry then profit of these so-called waste buffaloes? They sell them for slaughter. So this is nothing but narrative changing years together on, so that people can be influenced in the name of religion. But I do not, and I strongly believe that we do not really know God. Even if I were to invent a God today and say that this is my God, I don't think the first idea of a human being would be, okay, acha, let's sacrifice an animal, and that's what God has said. It is, of course, my mentality and my convenience which has brought this up.
You're so right. I mean, never God has said anything like that. It's just we make it up. Sometimes it's business. Sometimes it's called superstition. Just that. I mean, God has never told to be violent to anyone. No scripture in this world has ever proved that. You're absolutely right. Sohini, you want to add something to that?
Yeah. I always say that religion is both a boon and a bane for animals. Boon because you pick up any religion, Hinduism, Islam, Jainism, Buddhism, any religion at all. There is no religion which does not have tenets or scriptures which don't talk about compassion for animals. In some way or the other, we have animals in the form of deities that we worship. Every god is associated in Hinduism. Every god is associated with a vahana. Vahana is the vehicle of any animal, of any god, of any deity. So when we worship the deity, we worship the Vahana also. Plus, we also have incarnations of deities or gods in the form of animals. At the same time, we do not hesitate in sacrificing animals in the name of religion. We do not hesitate in acting cruelly towards them in the name of religion when we keep them chained, etc., in temples, for that matter. So any religion, rituals related to religion, customs related to religions, they are always evolving, I think. The movie that you mentioned, for example, the name of the movie, if I'm not mistaken, is Parampara. And the entire movie is set up in a town in Rajasthan where Bali Pratha is a very important part of their life. So if we look at the evolution of movies also, from a mainstream Bollywood movie showing animal slaughter, to now when we have disclaimers before every movie begins that no animals were harmed during the making of this film, we have come a long way.
Traveled. Yes, exactly.
Decades. It may have taken decades, but we have come a long way. So similarly, every ritual associated with a religion also needs to evolve, and it has evolved over a period of time. So if we go back to ancient Christian philosophy, there was a particular saint, Saint Thomas Aquinas, who said that man has dominion over everything on earth. So everything that is there on earth, whether it's plants, trees, animals, land, water, sea, everything on earth, man has dominion over it. So everything that is put on earth is to channelize their energies towards making life better for humans. And he said that there is a ladder where there is God, then there is man, and then there are animals. It's very clear. So the purpose of human life is to serve God, and naturally then the purpose of animal life is to serve humans. So from that concept of dominion, we have now gradually, even Christian philosophy has shifted to stewardship, where they are talking about taking care of animals. So it's not just about dominating over everything. You have to be the caretaker, because there's no other species on this planet who can take care of the planet. Now, when we talk about climate change, global warming, etc., the entire responsibility is shouldered on human beings, because who else can take care of the planet? So the same is applicable to animals also. So every religion undergoes an evolution. Sati Pratha, which was considered an integral part of Hindu rituals, thankfully does not exist now, because people have given way to social reform, because there have been laws, religion has evolved, people have done away with these rituals. So the basic, the backbone of any ritual to give way to social reform, I think, is based on scientific temper or scientific reasoning, which even the Constitution talks about. The Constitution of India also talks about that under Article 51A(h), which talks about having a humanism and developing a scientific temper. And this has also been taken up by the courts in a lot of judgments, that whenever you are questioning religion, religious practices, rituals, you have to look at it from a scientific bent of mind. Is it rational in its, what you are claiming? For example, when I was just talking to Alok ma'am earlier this day, that when Rajinikanth announced that he is going to enter into the politics, his oldest fan club in Madurai in Tamil Nadu, they announced that they are going to sacrifice goats at a local temple so that he can have a thriving political career. Now, I think anyone who's attending this, or anyone with common sense and logic, can say that sacrificing a goat has got nothing to do with Rajinikanth's political career, for that matter. So for something as trivial as that, to having annual fairs and festivals where animal sacrifice is an integral part. For example, in Odisha, in Balangir district, there is a Sulia Jatra that happens every year, where animal sacrifice is an integral part. So depending, the belief, age-old belief is that it brings prosperity to the village, it brings good to the natives of the village, and 61 villages participate in this festival, in this animal sacrifice, under 15 gram panchayats. And the value of the animal that is sacrificed is directly proportional to what you desire, or if you are undergoing an illness, then what is the seriousness of your illness. So it starts from a pigeon, hen, cock, to a buffalo, sheep, goat, and whatever probably is available. So the point being that over a period of time, these rituals have to give way to better reforms and better rituals. Even the courts say that when we are talking about freedom of religion that is guaranteed under the Constitution, it recognizes freedom of only essential and integral practices of a religion, something on which your foundation of the religion is based, right? So if we say disassociate or detach animal sacrifice from a religion completely, sacrifice which stems from superstitious beliefs, like ma'am mentioned, that if I sacrifice an animal, or if I have a son, I am going to sacrifice an animal. So if we detach that, the foundational principles of a religion is not going to collapse. people who are following that religion are not going to stop following it, are not going to stop worshipping the gods just because this aspect is removed from the religion, right? So the rationale of or reasoning, a scientific bent of mind is very, very essential when we are talking about religion, when we are talking about age-old customs. That has to be emphasized upon by the courts also when they are dealing with these questions. Like you mentioned that the courts also don't want to tread into this territory because it's controversial. They go back and forth in their decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the high courts, they permit. Then when it goes to the Supreme Court, they say that it's okay. You go ahead with, is saal ke liye kar lo animal sacrifice, and then we'll see for the next year. So nobody wants to touch upon that, which I think is problematic also, because if you can't stop it with animals, you can't stop it with human sacrifice as well. Last week in Madhya Pradesh, a husband had beheaded his wife as part of sacrifice to please the deities. So if you can't do it, if you can't stop animal sacrifice, you can definitely not stop human sacrifice also. So the entire social fabric is always evolving, and the rituals and customs also have to accordingly evolve.
I think speaking of Rajasthan, I will add a little bit. I have toured Rajasthan like no other state in this country. I'm from West Bengal. I've stayed, born and brought up in West Bengal. I'm in Delhi for the last 20 years now. Amazing state where every part of it, cities to cities, towns to towns, their major work is basically animal trafficking. Whether it is Sikar, Churu, Nohar, Bhadra, you name it. Whether it is camel, whether it is buffalo, whether it is goats and sheep, I don't know why. I've seen villages after villages, their only occupation is trading in animals. They buy it. There are 13 fairs, government fairs, registered fairs, which happens in Rajasthan. Shrinkhala, I and Piyush are working on something on that. And these fairs, which includes Pushkar, which is the largest, includes Gogameri, which is the second largest probably. They only trade in animals. And amazing, trucks after trucks, they take out animals from there and they head for various parts of the country. I don't know, is there a problem with occupation there? Is education a big issue? What is it? Is it only that I've never seen so many animals being trafficked from one single state in the country. I've never seen. I've toured almost every part of Rajasthan trying to stop it, going to superintendents of police and telling them that this has to stop, the way they carry the animals has to stop and everything, But this is amazing. I've never seen it. So just wanted to share that, Dr. Mahapatra, you're an eternal optimist. And I like that thing because you're absolutely right that we have really traveled a long, long distance when it comes to animal rights and animal welfare. The courts, I see all the police stations now more sensitized, even the backward states more sensitized. They're taking it up. They understand what is 428, 429, section 11, 12 of PCA, however toothless the act is, but still they recognize it. They know what it is all about. So absolutely, I completely agree to that. So my third question.
If I may interject,
Alok Panna, go ahead.
Act is not toothless. The enforcement and implementation is toothless. The fact that there is nil implementation is the problem. But if all of us, even made a single effort in actually implementing the act, including the enforcement, that would actually mean something. The problem is, of course, we talk of penalties, we talk of anything, but given 1960, it was a good act. And still now, even compared to developed countries, we have a good act. It's just that our enforcement is so pathetic that the existence of the act does not matter. So, yeah,
I'm going to second you on that. Because most of the animal lovers, animal activists stop at the FIR. The moment the FIR is lodged, they feel that they have done their work. It is the prosecution which is the most important part of it. You know, of course, most of them are non-bailable. Sorry, most of them are bailable offenses. So you basically get a bail in the thana only. You can just get a bail in the thana and just go back home, you know. But if you pursue it, you will definitely see to it that the guy is brought to. I mean, the guy is, the court will bring that guy, bring that animal thing to justice, you know. But it's a very, very, as you are rightly saying, it's a long stretch. It's an extremely long stretch. The problem is that with a 50 rupee fine, I mean, I've handled so many cruelty cases, superdari cases. I mean, a simple superdi, I mean, you give a superdi at the court and you get off, you know, you just take it in the truck and then you go away. You know? I mean, you can't do anything. By the time you go for an appeal at sessions, they've taken taken the animals away. The animals are 50 kilometers away from you. So, I mean, while I do understand, but then I think the fines have to be bigger, definitely. I'm sure, Alok Panna, you know very well, there was a draft act in 2010, which went to Jayanti Natarajan, which was kind of sent back and all. At that point of time, I think it was 5,000 was the first fine that we were looking at, and the multiple fine was, I think, 25,000 or something. That's what was proposed probably. So I think the fine has to go up, and certain things has to be made non-bailable. You know, if you mercilessly kill a dog, I think a couple of weeks back, or 1 week back, somebody in Patiala drove onto a dog, right? He just smothered the dog with his car, right? Now, can such things be made completely non-bailable? No questions asked. You know, then probably they will not do it. I mean, dog fights are happening, but is this a completely non-bailable act? I mean, they say it's under 428, 429. It's cruelty, man. So, I mean, how do you take them to justice? And the system has loopholes, you know. So can you make couple of them non-bailable? Can you increase the penalties? These are things which probably will make it a little bit more stronger. That's what I feel, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, you've worked with Gauri Malekhi, and we've been mentioning her case, and Humane Society International India. So People for Animals and Humane Society International India have been working on a campaign called No More 50, working for the longest time to, especially after the Shaktiman case where the MLA also got away, right? So because of public pressure, he did go to jail. He was in custody for about 15 days. Anyway, I think the government has just now announced that they are looking into it. So there is some respite. And you rightly said, and forget NGOs. I think even common citizens who like animals or who love animals, what they do is like, oh, I have called an NGO, I've done my job. It is now the NGO's job to take it forward. I've done an FIR, that's my job. Now it is up to the NGO to do something about it. So the onus is always on the other. And same for animal religion and animal sacrifice. The onus is always on the other. And as a community, we are not stepping up, and we are not moving forward. We're not developing as human beings, actually.
Absolutely. I mean, I completely second that. I mean, and the responsibility has to be end to end. If you started it, you take the help of an NGO and just put it, you know, just give it a closure. Closure means you prosecute. At least you prosecute that guy, you know. And I can tell you, I mean, it was 2015. 6 pups were burned and dumped into a park in Greater Kailash 2. Okay. New Delhi, people who are not from New Delhi, and no case was made. Absolutely, because the guy who did it was a very influential guy who has a cigarette kiosk in one of the corners of the market, and all the big guys, including the SHO of the local police station, used to take cigarettes from him. So nobody could put a hand on him. So we went there, my guys still feed around that place. So we went there, we excavated the half-burnt bodies after 1 day. Stench coming out. The police refused to hand it. They said कि इसका postmortem हो नहीं सकता. We did the postmortem. We went to court. 3 years, we just kept on going to Saket court. All the guys who were witness turned hostile. which included a couple of very big restaurant owners and managers. We couldn't do it. We couldn't do it. I mean, 3 years, man. I mean, Prakhar Dixit was the lawyer, I still remember. And I mean, it was only me, Prakhar, and another guy. We are sitting in the court. For 3 years, we fought that case, but we couldn't nail it because nobody was ready to take it up. They said that he's a very influential guy. I mean, so.
If I can add, sorry to interject though.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think the entire idea is about perception. While I completely agree with ma'am that we as a society also need to evolve, like humans also need to evolve and understand that, they are also living beings. The problem is whenever you speak about, things like animal welfare or animal rights, the first reaction of any person is that, "Arey activist hai," or it is like, "Arey isko kutte se pyar hai, isiliye." So the perception is like that. The value of this as an independent part or field of law, as a subject area of law, as holding, that it can be an offense, that you can actually be punished for it, has still not sunk in to the society. People still are definitely not aware that a legislation exists. Forget about the fine. While we need to increase the fine, undoubtedly, I think the awareness about the act or the fact that X, Y, Z, these things amount to cruelty and you can be punished for it under the law also needs to be, made aware to the common people. Having said that, it is also important to change the perception of the law towards animals. If you take the Indian Penal Code, the sections that we've been mentioning, 428, 429, they find their place under the heading offenses against property. Offenses against property. So when the penal code of the country perceives animals, living beings as property, what more or what better can you expect from the common citizens? The legislation, it has to be a combined effort of the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, plus the citizens. We as humans anyways, we have a tendency of, being cruel, even if not cruel, we are not in the best of our behavior towards anyone or anything that is subservient to us. Be it in terms of caste, be it in terms of gender, be it in terms of species. I think it is part of human nature to mistreat anything that is subservient to you. So while we are unable to do it with humans, expecting or, for them to behave better with animals is again a far-fetched dream. We are all part of trying to, achieve that. But it has to start from the higher up so that it can trickle down to the, roots in the society. If the legislation perceives animals as property, naturally, and the fines are mere 50 rupees, 100 rupees, then it doesn't act as a deterrence for the common man. It doesn't act as a deterrence for the common man at all.
I think it's education also, if I'm not wrong. How can we educate the present generation, the generation which is younger? Because, I still remember, I'm sorry, I'm deviating a little bit out of the topic.
Sure.
When we were young and we used to go to school, I can tell you a very small incident. I was in Calcutta. I studied in Central School, Salt Lake, and my walk from my house to my school was around 3.5, 4 kilometers. And we didn't have cycles, bicycles, anything. We just walk, right? So I used to encounter these 5, 6 extremely hungry dogs at one point, at one corner, and I had to cross them to go to my school, right? So somehow I used to cross them quite scarily most of the times. So one day they completely lunged at me. They didn't bite me, but there were scrapes on my body, right? So I went back home and told my father that I don't want to take that road. I would rather take a half an hour extra route to go to my school. I encounter the dogs every day. So my father told me that if you cannot manage dogs, what will you manage in your life? You know, that was the exact line he told me. And what he told the guy who was making my tiffin is that, iske lunch box mein 5 aur roti de do. You know? So I had 2 lunch boxes with me every day. One lunch box was mine and one was to be given to them. So every day I used to go, I used to offer them the rotis and used to happily eat it. And one dog used to actually come behind me almost till the school gate. You know, now how many parents right now will do that? How many? I mean, every time I go to feed dogs, parents come and say, "Kutte kaatte hain, mere bacche ke piche daud rahe the." Man, hello, you can befriend a dog with a 5 rupee Parle G today. Why do you want to quarrel with people? I mean, so I think those things have changed. I think we are more defensive now. We are more protective now. I think our generation, our parents used to say, "Do hell with it, man. If you don't know how to take care of all these small things, how will you grow up and do a job, make a career? And what will you do in your life?" So, I mean, I think that is another thing. So that entire, what should I say? That entire attitude was very different. It's right now more defensive. I don't know. I mean, that's how I feel. Maybe you people have a different experience, but since I've been feeding dogs right all over 11, 12 years now, and I have a team feeding hundreds of dogs. So we face this almost every day. So we go at a time when there is nobody there, you know, early morning, 5 o'clock, afternoon, dead in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, nobody there. Only the dog stands there to be fed, you know. So we are happy in that way. And I mean, I always say that education is extremely important. I've done a lot of talks in corporates about animals, especially about dog feeding. I've done talks at Ernst & Young, KPMG. I've had 200 people attending to it, glued and talking, asking questions and all. I think there is an awareness. But I think we need to take this awareness to the schools, to the colleges, universities, and talk more about it, how they are helping us. All these domesticated animals have a role to play in the society. You know, they play a great role. And is there any way we are giving it back to them? So that's something which we have to. I know HSI does a lot of work there. They do a lot of educative work there, but I think we need to do more on that, right? So I'm sorry, I'm slightly deviated from topic and we don't have too much of time. So I'm coming straight to the question.
Okay.
So slightly controversial. A lot of temples in South India has a large number of elephants. They call it mascot. They call it, I don't know, whatever. They call it their religious pride. They're kept, sometimes they're kept chained. I don't know who monitors their food. Is it Animal Welfare Board of India? What kind of food they're taking in? And can you keep an elephant like that in a small piece of land? Elephant being one of the most intelligent animal. I mean, if people who have done studies, they can tell you how intelligent an elephant is basically. So is this not an extreme case of cruelty? And I just saw that probably in Tamil Nadu somewhere, the court actually gave the elephant back to a temple trust, you know. So what is your take on this, Alok Parna? You have done some work, I know that. HSI keeps doing those work. You do a lot of work on those areas. So what is your take on this?
Yeah. Any sort of captive elephant, we strongly believe that wild animals deserve to be in the wild. And it is not very, I mean, if we think of it, if we actually put our minds and think of it, that why should a gigantic animal who is sort of, you know, the keeper of the forest listen to mere human beings? Because they have undergone that immense cruelty, stealing of elephants. And any listener can look this up, how these elephants as babies are stolen from the wild along with their mother, and the mothers are tortured in front of the child, in front of the baby elephant, so that the baby elephant listens. So these are all power play tactics that even we see in domestic violence or child abuse and domestic animal cruelty. So these are the same tendencies we see everywhere. And definitely cruelty. Unfortunately, the Wildlife Protection Act actually has an exemption for captive elephants. Again, this is nothing to do with cruelty, nothing to do with religion. It is, of course, wherever the finances are high, wherever there is power, wherever there is influence, and where there is capture of either an industry or whether it is, or of if you can say religion, it is religion. So definitely, I completely agree. It is cruelty. The way these elephants are kept, you have a lot of guidelines saying care and upkeep of elephants under the AWBI. And I've actually done a few. I've been deputed by the AWBI to do a few inspection of circuses, and it's the same. It's the same everywhere for elephants, for any captive elephants. And no elephant is supposed to be alone because they are again such social creatures. They can't be kept in solitary confinement. Yet they continue to do so, and because again you need to understand that we as an animal protection movement is also very divided within, and while we are ridiculed from the outside because we are too emotional and we don't keep, so it is wonderful that Sohini is actually, she's a PhD in animal, but isn't it sad that she is one of the first that we know of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so even in the social sector, we're not taken very seriously. We like to be a very self-righteous. It is our problem. It is everybody's problem, because we like to be, we are crazy about animals. We don't care about humans. We are crazy about animals. But you have to take everything hand in hand, especially when you go to, for example, you were talking about education. And it just takes me back to, again, this whole thing with Gadimai, where thousands of buffaloes were slaughtered in an arena, and there were parents who were coming with 2-year-old, 3-year-old children and forcing them to see these heads. And everybody was taking, as part of the religious ceremony, was that they were taking the blood and putting it in a
tilak. I know, yeah.
Yeah, and children were crying. I mean, that was, you adults want to do it, you do it, but children were crying. They did not want to come inside. They were forcefully pulled inside. That's the level of brainwashing, the level of overpowering by some stronger forces, not by God, but stronger for human forces, which has been taken place. Because still Bihar, one of the poorest states in the country, yet the animal sacrifice is so strong because people think that by sacrificing animals, they will be
prosperous, wealthier.
Yeah, and floods should not come, ye should not come. We did a huge survey and everything was like, oh, floods hote hai, so we should sacrifice. Pigeon is for, pigeon, when you ask for sacrifice a pigeon because aapko beta hua hai, then you have to, jab wo ho jata hai, then goat, then something happens, then this Varanasi say you send 350 buffaloes to Gadimai. So these are all ingrained, brainwashed stuff that goes into your head. We had a person, I knew a person who was compassionate towards dogs like crazy. She loved dogs. But at her home in Kerala, her father had owned a temple elephant. Mm-hmm. And they could not do anything to convince them. Mm-hmm. This child could not do anything to convince the father, and she didn't even recognize it as wrong. So I think what we need to start doing, like you rightly said, Sarshay, is that we need to start educating, and instead of we need to understand that normalizing animal cruelty happens only when something is really mentally a mental issue with us. We do not recognize the impact of animal cruelty on human behavior, and the fact that the puppy burning thing that you spoke about, in 2016 we had a puppy burning issue in Hyderabad, and there were children of the age 10 to 12 who were burning puppies in a live bonfire.
Oh my God.
And we got hold of them, and they were themselves, it was a vicious cycle of violence. They were themselves beaten up by their parents.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
In abusive households. So I think what our government, our legislator also needs to do is understand this, because just by looking at the symptom, you won't cure the entire disease. So disease is of the mind, and like we've seen in the whole brouhaha that is going on in the last 3 months is that India is refusing to take even mental illness seriously. And where will they take animal cruelty? I mean, FBI takes it
very seriously.
Very seriously. And if you've watched, and anybody watching this seminar can go and watch Mindhunters on Netflix, because they say that there are three reasons of short people.
Absolutely.
Criminals in the long run, which is one is bedwetting, arson, and the third is cruelty. That is how important animal cruelty is. But we are okay to, again, I come back to the same thing where it's convenience for making, for whatever belief, forwarding whatever cult that you want to put forward. And I think I've deviated from the topic, but...
No, it's good. It's good because we're talking. It's good. Dr. Mahapatra.
Yeah.
You want to add?
So, with respect to captive elephants in temples, I think prima facie it violates a lot of sections under the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act. Section 11 itself, under Section 11, a lot of subsections are violated when you keep an elephant captive at any temple. There is restriction of its movement. There is negligence by the owner. There is they are not fed properly. There is they are made to be against their natural habitat or the natural way of life. So on the face of it itself, it is as per the law cruel. But like ma'am said, that it is convenient, it is acceptable because it is part of tradition. I think Kerala has the highest number of temple elephants. If I am not wrong, I was reading up on it. And it's part of tradition. And sometimes it just doesn't register that it is wrong, that what you are doing is wrong. Temple elephants suffer from arthritis. They suffer from severe wounds because of standing for long durations of time, and they are animals with high cognitive ability, high cognitive order.
Exactly.
And like ma'am mentioned, that they are a herd animal. So when you keep them alone, you keep them in solitary confinement, in a way, even keeping them chained is confinement. So that affects their mental health also. Having said that, since we don't take human mental health seriously, taking seriously mental health of animals is probably another life altogether. But having said that, I think so much of this is lost in dividing this into black and white, that we completely miss out on the gray areas. I was reading up this article about temple elephants, and at the end, in one of the comments, someone had written that animal lovers and animal activists are concerned about elephants in temples. What is wrong with it? It is an age-old tradition. They are after our traditions and rituals, but they are not questioning the government about roads, railways, and infrastructure. I mean, how is it even related? Why can't we, talk about roads, railways, or not talk about roads, railways, and talk about this? It is lost in between. The entire point is lost. It's either the perception is either you are an activist, or you are completely unaware or ignorant about animals, or you don't care about them at all. Why can't we come to a middle ground? Even if you, purely speaking from an academic point of view also, if we look into philosophical studies, if we look into jurisprudence of law, there have been many philosophers who are absolutely not in support of treating animals, that we don't have a moral duty of treating animals with, kindness, or giving them any kind of a status, or giving them any kind of rights. There are a lot of philosophers. But some of them even say that the only reason why, you should be compassionate towards animals or be kind towards animals is so that that behavior transcends towards how you behave with your companions or with fellow human beings. So if I am cruel towards animals, that becomes inherently part of my nature. If I can beat a dog, if I can beat any animal for that matter, I can raise my hand at any other human being also. It can be my parents, it can be my wife, it can be my child, anybody for that matter. So that is a part of cultivating your behavior. I always say you need not be an animal lover. Nobody is asking you to, I'll tell you from personal experience. Me, my father, my family, we feed dogs wherever we find them. My father goes early in the morning on a particular route to feed dogs in different places. So I have got that from him because that's how we've been brought up. So it comes naturally to us, but I'm sure it is not natural for every other family, which is okay, But if you are not an animal lover or you don't like animals, you don't have to be an animal beater or an animal hater also.
Right. Absolutely.
You can't do anything good for them. You can might as well ignore them. That is also acceptable to us. Given that it is better than burning them live in a bonfire, ignore them.
Horrible.
If there are others, like Mr. Roy or like us who can, feed them or take care of them. So that balance has to be there. And it's lost in between where you are either perceiving it as activism. When you talk to anybody about, being kind towards animals or that, keeping animals in captivity is wrong, then the immediate equation to that is, "Arey, but you can eat non-veg, then isme kya galat hai?" Arey, why does it always have to be either veganism? It's completely it's a personal choice, and it's for each individual to decide what will be their food habits, lifestyle habits. It is completely fine, and nobody is for or against it. But having said that, why is it lost in that argument? Why does it always have to be, "Arey, tumko sacrifice a problem hai, but non-veg to chalta hai, chicken to chalta hai." Arey, so it's always black or white when you talk about animals. Nobody is ready to come to the gray area of it. So even with temple elephants, captivity, any animal in captivity, and is just wrong. It amounts to cruelty under the act. And these elephants are also rented from temples to temples, so they are shifted also from temples to temples. And the transportation is again violative of the act, is violative of the law. But nobody is aware of it. People who are transporting them don't care. They are not aware. The authorities don't take cognizance of it. So all of it's like a cumulative problem. It's like a cumulative problem.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think you have gone so deep into it, Dr. Mahapatra. Anybody who talks to you will actually get transported back and logically think about this entire thing, which I'm right now thinking actually. So, before I go to the last question, I'm going to talk about one thing. There is a buffalo race which happens in coastal part of Karnataka. It's called Kambala, and I think it was banned along with Jallikattu. If I'm not wrong, I think Alok Panna can tell more about it. You can also tell more about it. Why I'm talking about this race is that how stupid premise of a race can be, right? So there are two buffaloes attached to each other who have to run in tandem in a slushy paddy field along with a guy. It came into prominence a few months back because the guy who actually ran almost like Usain Bolt. He ran 100 meters in 9.55 seconds or something like that. And they came up to SAI, Sports Authority of India, and our young sports minister said that you can come to trial. We want to see how fast you can run. So Kambala is done by Tulu landlords, people who speak that language, Tulu, coastal parts of Karnataka. And it's a 300-year-old tradition. And why is it done? It is done to appease gods so that animals do not contract disease. Just think about it, how stupid it can be. Two buffaloes running in tandem at a horrible speed. If one buffalo cannot keep up to the speed of the other buffalo, they're going to fall down and going to die. And this is all done so that you're appeasing the god to say that please keep away diseases from animals. This was banned, and I think this, again, the ordinance was passed, and this has again started, if I'm not wrong. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong there. Just like Jallikattu, Kambala has probably also started.
Yeah.
So I mean, Alok Panna knows those because I think they were all in that petition. So I just wanted to give you an example. This is such a stupid premise of holding something like this, which is so painful to that animal, and so that's something which I wanted to say. So Shrinkala, do you think I have some questions? I can pick up some questions from audience. Is there anybody who's asking any question, Shrinkala?
So while Shrinkala says this, I do want to bring something very similar because it's all during the Harvest Festival.
Please, yeah.
Is of cockfights in Andhra and Telangana.
Oh God, Sankranti, yeah, horrible.
Yeah. And this is, the problem is it is very little to do with God and more to do with entertainment.
Revenue, advertising. I always call that.
So for example, Jallikattu was sort of like who is the strongest man who can hold off on the hump of the bull, so that get married to the zamindar or whoever that it was. And again, it all stems from some various levels of either casteism or patriarchy, and that is why animal cruelty should not be seen in isolation. Something that we have done for so many years, the social sector, governments, animal welfare people, we've seen it in isolation and seen, okay, animal welfare is a problem, so we don't care about the humans who are suffering. But if we see it as a whole, then we will probably identify the issues. In Andhra, 1,500 crores are bet. 1,500.
My God.
Only in those 10 days. And we started working on it in 2015, it was 1,000 crores. Now it has come to, in the last 5 years, 500 crores have increased in spite of the High Court saying, no, you cannot. Cockfighting is banned. We went to the court again. Then they said, we are reiterating, we will hold you, all the district collectors, all the other authorities, we will hold you personally liable. 17 elected representatives were asked to come, were included in the case. Yet it is every day, every year, the inauguration is done by MLA. Inauguration is done by MPs. Inauguration is done by movie stars. Why? Because there is money. Last year, this year, 2020, in fact, SPs and DCs, they actually try their best, because in 5 regions in 2019, we actually were able to shut down events. These, I don't call it a sport, because sport has to be played from both ends. These events were shut down, and that collector was then transferred to a remotest of that woman sub-collector that was there. The next year, a lot of SPs actually started playing volleyball and saying, okay, if you want to have a competition, play these games instead of having a cockfight, where you're feeding, and it's so unnatural because you're feeding these roosters mutton, which is not there. Why? We take such good care of our animals that we feed them mutton. Do you feed them mutton? No, it's not natural for these animals to be fed mutton. But the problem again is there are tech guys. We pride ourselves saying, Andhra, Telangana, they export tech, software people to US. They don't make it easy by making apps to bet on these cockfights. And that's the level of brainwashing and the level of these things seeped in it. In spite of the High Court saying, okay, you cannot do, in spite of the Supreme Court in AWBI versus AWBI saying culture cannot be an excuse for animal cruelty. like Sohini said, we have to keep evolving, and it can't be. It's an age-old tradition. 200 years is nothing. It's nothing actually. Based on civilization, it's nothing. It's just, okay, 200 years ago, we didn't have TV, we didn't have phones, we didn't have anything. Okay, just make two animals fight. Now it's become a business. The problem is now there's money attached to it. And if I could show you photos where these young children, so there is a gambling prohibition act in AP, and because of course, 1,500 crores is not a joke.
Small amount, yeah.
Second is that children are made to sell illicit liquor, and the animal, whether you're the winner or you're the loser, the animal is the loser in all of this. They are made to sit and defeather the birds and cut them up. So that is the kind of desensitization you're doing to these children at the very impressionable age of 9 to 12 years old, or maybe 15, because probably, rural areas, maybe malnutrition is there, but these are sensitive ages, and nobody's even paying attention. And because there is so much influence and power, because MPs, MLAs have backed this, microfinance companies have backed this.
It's sheerly because of the money. It's sheerly because of money.
Yep.
Because there's money, so all these people flock to that. So how about taking the sponsors? How about taking the sponsors to court, asking them that why do you sponsor such cruel sports?
I mean, there was one Ramalinga Raju, I think he was a former MP. He's the guy who went to court and then came out, court said status quo. And 2014 or 15. So we said, oh, status quo, because according to PC Act, it's banned. And they celebrated and spread the rumor that status quo means tradition is tradition. So let's celebrate.
Horrible.
It's also it's the power of influence. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we have questions coming in.
Yeah. Do we have? Okay. Tejaswita Poonam. How is the latest development on Cow Slaughter Prevention Act is going to have an impact on animal right protection when there is also question of livelihood of many people attached to it, and also when there is not just question of religious right of any group? Who wants to take it first?
I'll take it up. No,
yeah, Sohini, please. Yeah.
Purely an objective answer with, keeping in mind judicial precedents and everything, how they have dealt with this in the past. Banning of cow slaughter or cattle slaughter, any kind of, cattle slaughter. This is not the first time that it has come up before the courts. Since 1958, since your Hanif Qureshi judgment, we have had this question before the courts. And we, associate this probably with with a religious, motivation, or with a religious aspect of one particular group. But the law doesn't speak of it that way. If we read the statutes, if we read the rules, the preamble of these statutes don't specify this as the reason. But the question of banning cow slaughter or cattle slaughter with regard to affecting livelihood of persons has been placed before the courts in numerous cases earlier also, where the courts have also taken, I would say, an insensitive stance towards animals. If we look at it purely from an animal, welfare approach, where the courts say that, for example, in 58 with the Hanif Qureshi case, it says that you can, once the animals get older, or the cows, the cattle gets older, they are just feeding on limited resources, then they are breeding, they become unhealthy and old, so they are, going to breed unhealthier cattle. So it is okay to pass them off for slaughter. And every state has its own slaughter, prohibition of slaughter acts and rules, where they have different age limits for slaughtering of cattle. And this entire think while the common notion or perception is that it revolves around religion and particular religious groups or perceptions, the entire thing is actually purely utility based. If we go strictly by the statutes and the judgments, it's purely utility based, because cattle, within the cattle also certain categories of cattle are permitted to be slaughtered, certain categories are banned or prohibited from being slaughtered, all purely based on how much of utility they can serve to human beings. If they are used for providing milk, up to what age they can provide milk, after that it is okay to slaughter them. If they are used as animals for labor in the agriculture sector or otherwise, then up to what age they can be of good labor, then accordingly the age is decided. So contrary to popular opinion, the law doesn't speak of religion per se when they are speaking of prohibiting slaughtering of cattle or cow. Having said that, even the question of affecting livelihood of certain communities, certain groups or occupations is definitely a matter of concern. But in the past also the courts have said that since it is not a complete prohibition, it's not a complete ban, you have other options as butchers, you have other options as animals that you can slaughter. So all of it is purely, objectively speaking, it's purely a utility based argument which the courts and the law provides. Yeah, if ma'am Alok-Panna ma'am wants to add something.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but I will just say from the reality on ground is that
you're going to be a lawyer very soon, if I'm not wrong.
But that's just it's nothing to do with that's just for my basic understanding. But the problem is that we cannot increase leather production, we cannot increase milk production and say that we are not going to slaughter cows. We can still increase milk production because buffaloes also give this thing, but buffalo skin is not used. It's only used for leather. India's leather industry is very popular because of the soft skin that the cows have. So, I think it is a myth that, like ma'am said, Sohini said that, it is based on your utility. It's a utilitarian economy, and so be it. That this is, communalized or this is religion is just a vote. It's vote banks most probably, and I should not even be saying all this, but from the point of view of the animal is always at a loss, because you are you are being used in the dairy industry. You're not able to feed your calf. Now the thing is, a cow can actually give milk for at least 8 years, but they are inseminated so many times that it gives only for 4 years, and after that you're of no use. So why are, for example, even in buffaloes, right? Why are the male buffaloes being slaughtered as part of any sacrificial ritual? It is because they are of no use. Same like male chicks in the poultry industry. So I think it is less to do with religion and more to do with, like so he said, it's the animal's utility and
economics.
And even if you're in, say, UP, or there are only 2 states where a cow slaughter is allowed, which is West Bengal and and wherever the animal is, the animal will go to these 2 states to get slaughtered, and unfortunately it will go through even more cruelty because of the transport that is there in it. From an animal welfare point of view, that's the unfortunate part, because otherwise we would have cows in the streets if cows were actually not getting slaughtered. But if cows are getting slaughtered and roads are emptying up, that means that cows are being illegally transported to these places.
Okay, I'll say a little bit. I'm again not a lawyer, but an animal activist. So while this act is good, absolutely, we say Gau Mata, so it's a very rightist philosophy. But on the other side, what you have to see is basically the dairy industry needs to be regulated more stronger way, which is not being done right now. The moment the cow is unproductive, they're on the road. In the villages, my farm is in the villages. I have a small shelter. In the villages, if you have a male calf, you're abandoned the second day. I have male calves coming to be, which had to be given milk with a feeding bottle. Okay, feeding bottle, because they have abandoned the male calf, because otherwise the male calf will have the mother's milk and they cannot sell that milk. So these all things needs to be really regulated. If you really want a very worthy kind of cow protection policy to be in place. Otherwise, 2 years back, there were 6,000 cows on the streets of Gurgaon. And we were told by the Chief Minister's office to remove the cows to Goshala. We took 9 months to remove them. 9 months to remove 6,000 cows. Humongous task. We have got Goshalas who have 400 acres of land in Gurgaon. They refused to take animals. So my point is very simple, that with this act coming in place, you see more and more cows being abandoned. They're eating plastics. That's what they eat on the streets. People may not like it, but that's the truth. They give birth to calves on the streets. There will be herds of dogs coming and trying to pull that calf away. There are people who take the calf away just to sell them. So, we make laws, but what we don't look at is basically the follow-up. The rehabilitation. Where will the cow go when it is unproductive? There has to be a nice place for him waiting, right? Where he will get food twice a day. He can move around a little bit. He can meet others. They all communicate. They're all social animals, end of the day. So that part is missing. I don't see that part. We will have another session to talk more about it in animal trafficking. I've seen camels. Again, same issue. You're stopping to kill camels. Fantastic. But where is the rehabilitation? Who will take these camels? Where will they go? Who will feed them? So we'll pick up those topics in the coming weeks. I've got another question coming up. Sorry, it is going up. It'll go on, because I always feel when animal welfare and animal people meet, they're a crazy bunch. They can keep talking through the night about animals, because nobody listens. They only talk to each other, Probably in house also nobody listens to them. So this is the Chennai female elephant case. This is not Chennai, this was Kerala. I'm so sorry, Siddhi. This is Kerala, where the female elephant was given food along with cracker. And the question is that, what punishment for these kind of people who are cruel to the animal? And I'll also share with you things which has not come in the national media. In North India, agricultural land are wired illegally through electric wires, just to see that nilgais do not come and eat them up or destroy them. There are hundreds of nilgais who die just because of the electric current. This starts in Haryana, full of it, absolutely. We have tried and told them not to do it. There are people who shoot nilgais in villages. Nilgai is under Wildlife Act. You cannot touch it. And they are so beautiful animals. So beautiful animals. Fine. So it has not come in the national media. Elephant has come, but these kind of cruelties are done just to see to it that they don't destroy crops. So what is it? Who wants to take it up? Alok Parna, you want to take it up? Dr. Mahapatra, you want to take it up?
I'll just take it up from the point of view of human-wildlife conflict, because this we have to again see both sides of the picture, where this is a very valid issue. There is a very huge problem of human-wildlife conflict, and I'm not talking about the Kerala elephant here, but what you said is that the problem, one of the biggest problems, what we are seeing is that the ex gratia amount, that payment that we give to farmers for whatever problem that the destruction of their crops, it is so slow that it compels these farmers to then start hurting animals. and inaction on part of the government, time after time happens, and then when it becomes a media issue, when it becomes a huge issue, these extreme steps of killing the animals, getting some shooter from unfortunately Hyderabad, and getting these things Nil guys killed is the issue. And it is not only Nil guys, elephants too. Elephants in North India, Northeast India, East India, South India, huge issues. But the thing is that people are looking at the easier way out, which is, okay, let's just burn something and relocate them. We think these animals are like us, but they know how to come back. I mean, elephants walk for hundreds of kilometers a day. They are capable of that. You think if you shoo them away, they won't come back? The problem is that we are encroaching on their land, and we can't get away from saying that, okay, now they are destroying our crops. There are many humane methods of keeping them away. For example, this is something I've heard. I've not. This is something I've heard. I'm not a wildlife expert, but saying if you put tobacco leaves or barrages and then say put tobacco farming around this, then once the elephant tries to come and have that, they will get disgusted and move away. But that is again a very important about to have elephants. For example, have the elephant corridors. Don't. The environment ministry unfortunately has become more of an environment clearance ministry. Environment ministry.
Yeah,
a few years ago, there was this heartbreaking video of somebody made a golf course in Assam, and these elephants were trying to go, and one elephant calf hitting its head on the concrete wall because it just refused to back out. It was like, this is my way of walking. I will walk through that. So I will not take away from the fact that farmers also face a lot of problems. It's the inaction and the ineffectiveness in looking at it at a whole, in a holistic manner, that we are failing both the animals and the farmers.
Dr. Mahapatra.
I think even the next question that is posed, that whether there should be differential punishments.
Yes.
I think we can take that up also simultaneously with this, because we are talking about, we are on the point of punishments. So first to answer, I think Siddhi's question, the penalty, if we go for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, it is 50 rupees of fine, irrespective of the kind of cruelty. So that takes us to the next question also, that should there be differential punishment for animal cruelty? Personally, I think yes, because you cannot equate something as, from kicking an animal to killing it. It cannot be the same scale. It's not so for humans also. You have different punishments, different penalties for different kinds of offenses that are committed against humans or committed against properties of human beings. So going by the same logic, going by the same principle, there should definitely be differential punishment for cruelty to animals also. You cannot equate everything from beating an animal to burning it to throwing it from the top of a terrace to burying it alive. Everything can't be on the same scale. So there definitely needs enhancement of penalties. Like ma'am had mentioned earlier, that for 1960, 50 rupees, 100 rupees probably was a lot of amount for a fine. In 2020, 50 rupees, I can buy one ice cream which is costlier than that. You go to a good ice cream store, your ice cream is costlier than that. So there definitely needs a change in the legislation, a change in how the ministry operates and perceives it. I always say that clubbing animal welfare or the prevention of cruelty to animals under the Ministry of Environment, I personally think is problematic, because we already have a lot to deal when it comes to environment. So that in a way, I think overshadows or takes away the focus from animals. or what you need to do for welfare or upkeep or benefit of the animals, because you're constantly talking about climate change, global warming, and which are pertinent issues which affect humans and animals and the environment on a regular basis. So there needs to be some kind of a segregation at that level also, so that there is one entire dedicated branch, one entire dedicated body, or part of the ministry which focuses on how to implement or improve the laws, how to pass better legislations, implement them better, how to execute it better at the ground level. Yeah,
I think perfect. Anybody has any other question? I think we've been able to. So whilst a question comes up, I'm going to talk a little bit about a judgment in Tamil Nadu about an elephant corridor. This is a 2018 judgment. Madumalai Forest Reserve, which is a border of Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. So there are around 12 resorts there, and there is a elephant track there. So elephant moves in a certain. Elephant has its own track, so it moves in a certain track and it keeps moving on the track. They go back, they come back, they go back. So for 20 years, the elephants have been moving in a single track. Around 2017, they moved and took another line of track, which encroached upon some of the resorts. The Madras High Court said that, told the resorts to close it down, in fact. So there were 12 resorts, out of which one of them belongs to a very famous film star. So went to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court also ruled the same thing. They said, no, if the elephant has taken a different track and if it is encroaching your land, you will have to close down. So there are judgments. There are very progressive judgments in this country, which clearly says that, no messing around with them. But there are some judgments like this judgment where the temporal trust was given back the elephant. So these are not judgments which we should be proud of, but they are again coming from High Court. End of the day, learned judges who have a 30-year-old history, has seen it all, done it all. So that is there, So all kinds of judgments are coming in. So any question? I think we are already at 1 hour 40 minutes today. I mean, as I said, that we can keep on going. We will not stop probably. So I would like to end it. We are at 10:45. I promise to take. I promise to call you both for an animal sacrifice thing, and probably one day we're going to talk about tigers, how they are moving from the core area to the buffer area. What is it all about? And how they are increasingly coming in conflict with humans and their livestock. We can talk about the Maharashtra thing, Maharashtra tigress. We can talk about more, So I would like to talk, slightly controversial, but something which this generation must know. That, I mean, how much of money we have put in tiger conservation projects and where are we on that? So let's look at some more. Yeah, I'm going to bother, Shrinkhala is going to bother you people again. Maybe next week to talk about animal sacrifice in toto, how the origins and legislations and where can we do it. So thank you very much. Firstly, it's a pleasure to know both of you. Firstly, Alok Panna, I've heard about you a lot with my interactions with Gauri and Ambika and all. And Dr. Mahapatra, you're a revelation to me completely. When I read your everything, and Ramanuj actually gave your details to me, you were like absolutely out of, I mean, I never thought that there's somebody who exists in this country who's like this. And I'm sure thousands of people are going to emulate you. I pray to God that thousands and thousands of people emulate you so that the next generation actually takes it up seriously and does some stellar work which we have not been able to do till now. I always thought that people will be more serious about animals, towards animals, more empathetic about animals in future. Fine. With this, I want to close this session. Thank you so much for all of us, all of those people who have been attending till now. And thank you so much, Shrinkhala, for doing this. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you so much, Saptarshri, Shrinkhala, and Shohini for recommending my name and the opportunity.
We are going to get you for more. Don't worry. We're going to harass you for more. We're going to do more of this. Thank you so much. It was nice talking to both of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.